Well, Nigel, you've got a goalkeeper exited the building and one come in since. Just talk me through, was it very much, it looked like you had your plan in place in case something came in for Dan?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I've spoken about it before and tried to be open with players, and it's an opportunity for Dan. And, you know, we are trying to reduce the wage bill, and so there's an element of that. Great opportunity for Dan, and so something that suited all parties really, as much as anything. You know, Dan's contract was up at the end of the season, so he knew his situation. So he's one of the players that I'd spoke to quite early about his own personal situation. But it was also important for us to not leave ourselves short, and that's you know, the two deals had to be synced really, to have any possibility of going through, and obviously with Steph going out on loan, which is it's a different scenario anyway. He needs games. We don't think how he is at the minute is probably ready for us, and so good experience for him to go back to France, just given the experience he's had here so far. So, you know, all those things together, there's lots of factors to how deals are done. But you know, the underlier for Dan's situation is one of our, you know, top earners. So it's that can drive it to a certain extent.
And so you've got a new keeper. What can you tell us about him and what sort of a threat he's going to pose to Max?
Well, look, he's come in to as competition. He gives us cover. He's got experience. He's a good age. You know, he's 27. You know, so Nick comes in with different type of experience, and that's what we need at the moment. And it helped us just to facilitate Dan's move as well. So people get opportunities when they least expect it. He was a goalkeeper that was looked at in the summer as well. So, you know, it's just something that we were able to move on.
So nice to get one of these things drop into place. Obviously plenty of speculation whether it's Antoine or anybody else. Anything else moving closer?
As we stand at the moment, Antoine is in discussions with Bournemouth, so I can confirm that. But with, you know, it's the driver of those types of situations are two clubs agreeing the fee, and so that's happened now, and the club at some point will disclose what that is, but not today in a press conference. He's been given permission to speak to the club, and obviously there'll be an opportunity for a medical, etc. So that's where we are with that, and no real further comments on that at the moment, just because I don't know a great deal else at the minute. It's in the process of the most important fact to recognise at the moment is a fee has been agreed between the two clubs, and so now there are other factors to wait to see how they go. One being a medical, and one being agreeing personal terms.
I suppose from your point of view, the most important thing now is looking at your squad and thinking, okay, what does that mean for where you want to move and how quickly that's possible?
Well, we have plans. We're trying to move on a player at the moment, but of course, until there is some factual evidence to give you, again, it's not. I don't really believe in doing that publicly. We are trying to bring somebody in, and I suppose the next couple of days will be very important to try and get some sort of agreement done.
In terms of a position, is it looking for, if not a replacement, somebody who play in a similar part of the pitch, or are you looking at strengthening elsewhere?
We've got a. Firstly, yes, is because obviously Andy's been out, Tommy's been out, or Tommy is out. So yeah, we need cover. Of course we do. We need somebody to come in and fill a place in a forward position for us. So yes, but we are looking at other options too, and we'll see how those develop over the next couple of days.
And just finally on that, is it possible to tell us whether it's a loan deal, a fee involved, a permanent transfer?
Hopefully permanent. Yeah. I think, look, with I don't intend to be vague for our supporters. It's just more out of courtesy when you're talking about other people's players, and I think as much as anything, there is speculation out there about there's always going to be speculation about players and who's moving where, but I think for the time being, and I've tried to be clear, and that is that we've not been in a position to strengthen our squad based on our financial situation, but obviously agreeing a deal over Antoine gives us some capability, but it's not going to mean fortunes being spent, let's put it like that. We're still working towards the same plan and the same profile of players, and that's how it is.
Away from transfer news, you mentioned Andy. Is he close enough to be considered this weekend?
Not totally. At the as it stands at the moment, he's not hit his top speeds in training, so it's more unlikely at the moment that he'll play a part in the game at the weekend. So you could see one or two new faces.
And which obviously the club has made a real virtue of over the last year, 18 months of bringing through youngsters. Sam got his goal in the last round. It, in the short term at least, accelerates the possibility that those kind of players and even the level beneath might even get onto the bench.
Yes, absolutely. But with that always comes a different sort of challenge for those players. I'm not keen on overstretching youngsters as well. I think it's a great opportunity. I think Sam's ready for his opportunity. So I don't have worries about that. But of course, it's what we don't want to do is force a pathway through for younger players. It's not about doing that. It's not about trying to achieve that through necessity. It's trying to create a realistic way for our younger players who are good enough and ready for that challenge to break into the first team. So it's always getting the balance right. And our squad is, we've got one or two players out of the first team squad with injury as it stands at the moment, and so it's we've got players who know their futures are elsewhere. So we're operating with a tight squad, and it's important that we don't get into the realms of being too thin on the ground too. So it's always a balancing act, and just because of our circumstances in terms of the financial climate, it's meant that we can't do things out of order. So we've had to, it's been a while since in my time here, we've had so many players who've left and had no resale value, and so we're turning the corner in that regard as a club. If Antoine's deal goes through, there'll be an air of disappointment on a personal level, because he's a very exciting player and he's a good player, and he's developed remarkably well here as a player, and we don't really want to lose our best players. But it's an example. It's a reality check of where we are currently, but I think it's important for our fans to hear that we don't intend it to be the norm. It's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a team here which has got not just the ability to be successful, but also one which has value, and that's it's not an easy thing to get right.
So this weekend, West Brom, I thought the game on Boxing Day, first half, you basically matched them, maybe didn't take your chances, second half didn't go well. What do you need to do better to give them a better game, get the right result?
Take our chances when they come, which is, I think we've done that pretty well this season. We have over the last 12 months or so been a side that has created a reasonable amount of opportunities, but have converted. The conversion rate's been good. You have spells where things don't happen for you, and so. But look, we've got players who I think enjoy the challenge of someone like Naki Wells. Sam gets the opportunity. I think Mark Sykes has shown over the last few games that playing in that position, I mean he's played there or in that type of a role quite a lot of his career. So we have options. We've still got players like Alex Scott, who it's amazing how he's not scored this season. Really, with the types of performances that he's put in. The bottom line is, look, we have to continue to create opportunities in games. When you play against sides who, are some of the better sides in this league. It's a cup game, obviously, but when you get those chances, it's really important that we make the most of them. And so, playing in a different formation to when we played them last. Let's see what the game brings, but the players are looking forward to it. Yeah, pleasure.
Hi, Nigel. I respect that finding a replacement for Antoine's qualities would be very difficult. I respect that you don't want to divulge too much into his replacement, but would you be looking for a player of a similar mould to Antoine?
We'll hopefully produce a few more like Antoine. I mean, look, I think one of the things that we've talked about quite extensively about Antoine is the sort of the X factor of him, and that is that he's, as an athlete, he's a tremendous athlete, but he's capable of doing things that other players aren't, and I think so to try and replace an individual directly is probably not a realistic thing to do. What we have to do is try and get somebody into the squad that fits the profile of the squad, and that is, we try and play with a lot of high intensity. So anybody who comes in has got to be able to whatever position deal with that side of the game. So look, it's important that we add to the squad sensibly. We can't afford to make too many mistakes, but of course we are still in quite a limited market that other people are shopping in as well. So we'll see what happens.
So in terms of the money raised from Antoine's sale, if it goes through, how much of that cash can be reinvested back into the squad, and how much goes?
Well, again, I'm not in a position to be able to give you the. I know the figures, but how that's staged and when it's payable, I know what the figures are, but I'm not disclosing that at the moment. But we are realistic, and what I mean by that is we have other financial obligations to to meet too. And so it's the days of us going out there and spending millions on players, they're not going to be here anytime soon. Even though, as it stands at the moment, Bournemouth have met the valuation that the club's put on him. So it's the two things aren't. I know that there's a possibility of reinvesting some of it, but most of that will be in the summer. But we'll still be trying to invest in a way which gives us it keeps us on the same pathway that we're on now, for want of a better term.
So will this give you an opportunity to bring in other players into the squad in other areas this month?
Possibly, but again, look, I'll try and explain it in a way where there's a bit of clarity. We've had the sort of threat of financial fair play over us, as many clubs have, and even without Antoine's sale, I think the judgment would be that we would meet that. But we're still operating in a bit of a difficult situation just because of how the last 2-3 years have been. So we're trying to reduce the wage bill. We're trying to make the football operation a bit more sustainable. That's the bottom line. So to potentially lose one of your better players, even though we will get the valuation that we think is fair, doesn't mean that all that money will just go into buying more players. We'll invest time in everything, and that is invest in the academy, invest in recruitment. Of course we will, but we'll have to be sensible about how we do it, because we're trying to create a structure within the football department which has realism attached to it, and so that limits your options, and that's the bottom line. It's a harsh reality of that football's having to deal with, and we are involved in that, and so we have to cut our cloth accordingly, and we want value for money when we do invest. So we want to get the investment right. So yeah, hopefully we can get somebody in this window, maybe two. Who knows? I don't know. But we won't bring people in for the sake of it.
And I know you've spoken quite openly before about wanting to sign a right-sided defender. I was wondering if that thought process is still the same, given Zach's form this season. Rob's playing well, Callas is back, and obviously Naismith is another option in defence there. So is that thought process still?
We're always looking to improve what we have. Once you decide that you're happy with things, you're actually going backwards. We're always looking to improve, but it's whether deals are possible. It's whether you can agree terms with people. There are so many variables which can quite often rule out deals being done before they get off the ground. So it's important that we are as open as possible with our fan base, because I don't want to paint a picture that everything's just going to change all of a sudden. It's not, and I think it's only fair to point that out. We've got to try and get our own house in order.
Just on Nick, he came in yesterday.
Yeah.
I expect he's only been here for a day or two, but what do you like? What's your first impressions of him? And
well,
what do you like about him?
Again, goalkeeper's not really my bag, but he's a very likeable person. He's got experience, and I think that's something that is, and he's playing or he's here to try and earn a longer term contract. So again, because we've turned the deal around quickly, it's initially a short term deal, but if he does well, Max continues to play at the standard that he has, then we'll see what the future brings. So I think it's always important to try and stretch players. So every player that's at this football club, whether their future's here or not, they're playing for a contract somewhere. And that's the bottom line. So there's no... I don't worry about players knowing what their future is with us, because if it's not with us, they're still playing for a contract somewhere. And, you know, there have been examples of, players falling foul of it.
I know the FA Cup can bring the opportunity to make some changes, but can he make his debut this Saturday, or would it be too soon for him? Or
I think you've seen in recent weeks that we've tried to keep our strongest side out there, really. You know, we want to try and win the game. To try and win the game, to try and beat West Brom, we're going to need a strong performance. So there's not going to be many changes, if there are going to be any.
okay, and
Well, apart from Cam Pring's not available because he's suspended.
So Dan Bentley's departure means that someone's got to take the captain's armband on a permanent basis.
Yeah, I've not even discussed that with anybody, to be honest with you. Dan was really proud to be the captain. You know, I spoke with him last night to you know, wish him the best, and it's something he spoke very passionately about. It's something that he has cared a lot about. It's meant a lot to him. It's never easy to leave your captain out of a team, but I'll probably allow the players to decide who they want out there, because, you know, Andy's taken the armband up and Jamo's put it on if Andy's not there, and I've not really had any input in that. For me, leadership in those types of situations is about, I quite like the players to have that ownership of that. So we'll see.
And Ken Wilson, I know he's supposed to be back sometime around the end of this month.
He's been training with us all week. Looks good.
Can he be in the squad for Saturday?
It's too early. You know, he's not done enough. But really good to get him back. He's had a bit of a tough time of it. You know, it was really exciting in pre-season, and then he picked his injury up, and then it's been a bit in and out and getting his injury. So he's not had the start that he would like to his Bristol City career, but he's really popular. And it's good to have him back out on the grass, because at least now his frustrations he can get rid of by playing football again, and that's important for players.
Will he need a couple of games with the under-21s, or?
Well, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how, you know, a lot of players can get what they need in training. Some players need, it might be beneficial for him to play a 21s game, but we'll see. We'll see how his training goes.
Finally, from me, with regards to Tim Closer and Chris Martin, is their situation still the same?
In what sense?
Has been any approaches for them this month?
One or two bits of interest, but nothing's happened as it stands. So everybody else is as it was rather. We'll see what happens in the last throes of another window, eh? Who knows?
Thanks, Nigel.
Hi, Nigel.
Hey.
Nick, obviously, come in last couple of days. We've seen in the last few months an emphasis on Max's distribution and being able to play out from the back. Was that something you look for in Nick as well?
Partially, yes, but really it's more about experience. I think for Max O'Leary, this has been a really good season for him. He broke into the side last year for about, I don't know, a dozen games, maybe a bit more. Can't remember exactly what it was, but you know, he's at an age now, Max, where he feels he's ready to take the number one mantle, but you know, he's going to have to finish the season well. You know, I don't see, just because Dan's left now, that all of a sudden, if he can't get cosy, can't get comfortable. It's about, you're always playing for your future. And so we have some experience on the bench, which is good. But it's really still a very important second half of the season for Max now. So we'll see how that develops.
And as you mentioned, coming to the end of the transfer window, do you envisage any late loans for any under-21 players? Duncan Idahan's obviously come back.
Yeah.
Do you envisage any youngsters going out on loan or not?
Well, again, those are all conversations that we have internally. We have to, because we've got a number of our younger players are actually training with the first team now. We can't really leave the 21s short. So it's one of the pluses of having a realistic route into the first team for academy players. It's a real positive. But of course, what you have to do is still allow the teams below the 21s and the 18s to function. And so, we have players who have been on loan, have come back. We have one or two players out on loan, but we feel they get the best exposure for the most part here, unless they're ready for just a different experience. So it's an ever-changing picture. It's very fluid, and Brian deals with that with his staff. It's something that we have input as first team coaches and staff, but really at the moment we feel that a lot of the better youngsters who have got a chance of breaking into our side are better staying with us and training with us. And so that's proved to be a very valid view this season.
And I know it's a while before we'll see him back playing, but just on Eamon, how's his recovery coming along?
Well, he won't be. His recovery's going well. His rehab's going well, but he's not going to be available this season. So it's been a difficult year for him, of course, because he had a positive impact on the first team squad last season, and to get injured the week before the season finished was particularly a difficult experience for him, and of course to re-rupture the repair was very unfortunate. But look, like most bad experiences in life, sometime in the future he will lean very much on the experiences he's picked up, and he will come back a stronger player, both in terms of what he can bring to the team, but also mentally too.
And just finally on the women's, obviously not the result they wanted last night,
No.
but it was good to get a four-figure crowd down at Ashton Gate. It feels like the women's game's in a really good position for Bristol City at the moment, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a really positive part of our football club. I think Lauren and her staff have done exceptionally well. Over the 2 seasons to construct a squad from nothing in the first year and have a good season, and then to do quite a lot of work in terms of reshaping it. It's not straightforward, but they're a very positive part of what we are here.